Looking to travel in luxury on your next Delta flight? Well, that means sitting in Delta One, right? Sure. But what if I told you that Delta One actually has 7 different seats you might end up in? From the exposed to the enclosed, and the dated to the latest, we're about to reveal the definitive ranking of every Delta One seat so you don't end up shelling out for a subpar experience.
Hello, jet setters. You're looking to splurge on Delta One? I'm Jeb Brooks from greenergrass.com, and in this video, we're going to rank order all of Delta One's seats so you know which ones to seek out and which ones to avoid.
At face value, that seems pretty simple, but with 7 different versions of Delta One seats in the airline's fleet, knowing what to expect can be confusing. Now, we've been so very unbelievably fortunate to try them all, so you don't have to. Let's face it, you really can't complain no matter what when you have any lie-flat seat, so even the lowest ranked seat still offers an incredible experience in the air. But before we share our opinion, what's your favorite Delta One seat? Let us know in the comments below. In this video, we'll also share some of what you can expect from Delta One and even a surprise hack for how to easily find these seats without paying the Delta One premium. But first,
what is Delta One? What can you expect if you've got it booked?
Delta One is the premium business class product available on Delta's long-haul international flights and certain domestic routes, mainly from the Northeast to the West Coast and Hawaii. If you're booked into Delta One, you can expect lounge access, early boarding, elevated dining, exclusive bedding, and even amenity kits. But the biggest differentiator of all is a giant lie-flat seat. However, they're not all created equally, so let's get into it. Number 7, the Boeing 757-200. Delta's 757s with Delta One have 16 seats with 19 inches of width and beds that are 76 inches long. Sure, you won't see this on too many Delta One routes, but when you do, it's the bottom of the barrel. It comes in last place because it's the narrowest of all we'll see today, and also because not every seat enjoys aisle access. In fact, if you're booked into a window seat in this Delta One cabin, you'll be crawling over your seatmate to get in or out, and it's even worse if they're in bed mode. And speaking of bed mode, the beds in this seat are particularly tight in the footwell and at your shoulders. Most of the 757s in Delta's fleet do not offer Delta One, but instead just have Delta's standard first-class seats installed. Now, it's also worth saying, this last-place finish has nothing to do with what an awesome airplane the 757 is. I think we can all agree it's not only incredibly capable, but also stunningly beautiful. Number 6, the former Latam A350s. There are 30 Delta One seats on this version of the A350, and they each measure 23 inches wide, and the bed is 74 inches long. Now, Delta is a growing airline, and much of their growth is on long-haul routes perfectly suited for the Airbus A350. And when Latam Airlines wanted to shrink their fleet, well, Delta got a deal on their A350s. Rather than upgrade the interiors, they just recovered the existing seats. So that means, unlike the Flagship A350s we'll see in just a bit, window seats on these planes do not have direct aisle access. Now, the upside of these seats is that they make for some of the most comfortable beds in the sky. You'll be giving up some privacy and a quick exit for an open design that doesn't feel very cramped when you're lying down. This is the widest Delta One seat, but also the shortest. That said, thanks to its unrestricted footroom and shoulder space, it feels massive. Having more than one version of Delta One on the same type of airplane raises an important question.
How do you even know what aircraft type you're booked on? Well, let me show you.
During the booking process, Delta will show you. If you click Details and then look here at the top of the screen, it'll reveal the aircraft type. But to figure out which A350 you're looking at, well, you'll have to click into the seat map. This is the Flagship A350 we'll see in a few, and this is the lower-ranked former Latam A350 we just saw. Number 5, the 767-300. This version features 26 Delta One seats, each measuring 20.5 inches wide and 77 inches long. There's no way around it. The cabins on these 767s are starting to look a little long in the tooth. While it's the first Delta One cabin we've featured where everyone has access to the aisle, it's becoming clear when it comes to these seats, their best days are behind them. They're pretty exposed to the aisle and are still cramped in bed mode. The screens are not as good as Delta's best-in-class we'll see soon, but again, direct aisle access is worth a lot. The best seats for at least some privacy on this plane are the odd-numbered window seats like this one. You're still exposed, but at least this shelf is between you and the aisle. Again, Delta One is about more than just the seats. For example, If you fly it out of LAX, you can take advantage of this special, new, super exclusive entrance with dedicated security, absolutely no lines, and direct entry right into the Sky Club. More on lounges in a bit. Number 4. The A330. This version of the A330 has 34 Delta One seats, which are 19.7 inches wide and offer lie-flat beds measuring 80 inches. The A330 seats are looking tired, kind of like the 767s. However, the so-called reverse herringbone layout means a sense of privacy here that you just don't get on the 767. And seeing these old seats is an instant reminder of Delta's 747s and 777s. Anyway, popping the screen out is a little quirky, but it's also bright and crisp. Seats in the middle face each other. And again, thanks to this design, there's more privacy here than the other planes we've seen so far. In bed mode, the seats are fairly roomy, with more space than you'd expect. Now, Delta operates both A330 300s and 200s, but both have the same Delta One seats. Number 3, the 767-400. There are 34 Delta One seats here, measuring in at 20 inches wide and 77 inches long. This longer, extended version of the earlier 767-300 received a major upgrade a few years ago, and the seats really are world-class now. The even-numbered window seats offer the most privacy, and the seats are comfortable when they're both upright and when they're in lay-flat mode. The screen is phenomenal, and there are just so many bells and whistles in every nook and cranny of the seat. A ticket in Delta One grants you access to the Delta Sky Club. However, compared to the premium lounge offerings on United and American, Delta's lounge experience for their most premium tickets has kind of fallen behind. You may be eating from paper plates in a crowded buffet and ordering from a limited bar menu. By comparison, if you're flying United's top-of-the-line offering, that's Polaris, you'll have access to their separate Polaris lounges featuring craft cocktails, elevated food offerings, and a sit-down dining room, all included with your fare. In American, they have their Flagship lounge, which also offers elevated food and dining at certain hub airports. Good news, though. Delta plans to introduce a new premium lounge experience for Delta One passengers in 2024. They're starting with JFK, and then they'll add one in LAX and Boston. These lounges are planned to include a restaurant experience and more elevated dining and drink options. The premium lounge at JFK is slated to debut in June of 2024 and will become Delta's largest lounge in the entire system at 38,000 square feet. They're even going to have an exclusive terrace and wellness area. Another exciting development coming to Delta? Well, they'll soon be taking delivery of A321neos with lie-flat seats. Allegedly, these narrow-bodied airplanes will have 16 fully flat seats arranged in a 1-1 configuration. However, unlike this similar setup over on American Airlines A321Ts, Delta's suites will even have doors. That's right, that's another version of the Delta One seat for us to highlight on this channel. Number 2, the Flagship A350. The 32 Delta One suites on this A350 measure 20.5 inches wide and 76 to 77 inches long. When this airplane came on the scene for Delta back in 2017, it was a game changer. Delta used it to launch a brand new Delta One experience, and it all started with this industry-leading seat. Only it's not even a seat. Delta calls it a suite because it has a door. The odd-numbered window suites offer the most privacy, but really every single one is pretty private thanks to those doors. The suites are comfortable and roomy, but here's a hack. For the absolute most space you can get in Delta One, go for seats 2A or 2D. Those are the window seats at the front of the cabin. They're the biggest in the whole fleet. And when these suites are in their lie-flat configuration, you may just have one of the best nights of sleep while flying ever. They're great. Before we get to number 1, maybe you want to try these seats on some of these planes, but without the Delta One premium price tag. Well, the best hack for finding non-Delta One flights operated by these airplanes comes from a surprising source, the Delta Cargo website. I'll link to it in the description below, but if you head here and click Delta's domestic schedule, you can see where they're using wide-bodied airplanes like the ones we're highlighting here. When they're not being used on a route that's sold as Delta One, you can book these seats as first class. For example, it's not unusual to see 767s flying between Atlanta and Orlando. That's just an hour-long flight. It still may not be cheap, but it's a less expensive way to have a similar experience. Now, for the top spot, the Jeb Score award-winning Delta One seat of all time is the A330neo. There are 29 Delta One suites on the A330neo measuring 22.5 inches wide and 79 to 80 inches long. That makes it 2 inches wider and up to 3 inches longer than the Flagship A350. That also makes this Delta's largest suite. Anyway, it's the newest addition to Delta's long-haul fleet, and they took what they learned from the A350 suite and made it even better here. The bright and crisp screen is fantastic. The suites are even bigger than anything else we've seen so far, but you will want even-numbered window suites for the most privacy. But again, as before, they're all private thanks to the doors. I absolutely love this suite, and a flight on an A330neo is always a highlight. So here they are, all of Delta One seats ranked. Now, don't get me wrong, if you find yourself in any one of these, you'll be one of the most comfortable people in the sky. But if you have a choice in the matter, definitely seek out any of those top three.
Between now and the next time, see you in the sky.